Okay, guys, it's Jay,
And Monica!
Fab Fit Over 40, and our newest hangout is launched today on Wednesday, September 16th at 4 o'clock, and we are absolutely enthralled with our new guest, Ted Rice.
Superstar Ted Rice in the house.
Who runs the Legendary Life podcast in Miami, Florida. Ted has an amazing story. He's kind of a celebrity fitness trainer, and
he is.
Well, he's a celebrity fitness trainer. I hate calling people kind of celebrities, but he is definitely a celebrity fitness trainer in South Florida. He works with a who's who list of CEOs and executives on their training. So a lot of today's show is going to be talking about or directed towards, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, who are time crunched, who are already very successful in their jobs, and are just really looking for tips and tricks on, how to manage it all and keep it all together. And I think Ted's a certified expert in regards to discussing that. So with that said, Ted, man, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
All right, thank you. So I'm really happy to be here. Love what you guys are doing. Jay, Monica, Scott, we just met. No, I'm really excited to be here, and I love the idea, the concept behind what you do, the Fit Over 40, because what that says to me is I can't do the same dumb, crazy, intense stuff that I did in my 20s and still maintain that to stay in shape.
Right.
And that was my story starting out, my personal story. So I can't wait to dive in.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, Ted, tell us a little bit about your story, man. I mean, how did you get started on this path to where you're, helping people change their lives now with health and fitness?
Yeah, well, I'll give you the short version. I got into fitness after going through some tragedies in my life, and I was really lost. When I was 19, my brother got kidnapped and murdered, and really sent me down a crazy path, and I want to explain why that's relevant too in a little bit, but that's what got me started. I was studying behavioral neuroscience in school, and that's what I was really passionate about, but I dropped out and kind of bounced around, didn't know what to do with myself, and found myself in a job that I hated, but it was something that was helping me pay the bills, because even though I was kind of depressed and down and out at that time, the bills still need to get paid, you still need to eat, and so I found a job, didn't like it, but got to stay in this place that was on the ocean in Miami Beach on Millionaires Row. I was working in receiverships and bankruptcies, and I got a deal, man. I was working for this guy in one area in this luxury building. I was also working in a really bad part of town in Miami, the type of place where if you ever heard of a tourist in Miami getting robbed or worse, that's the type of place I was working in. So, I would go to the gym in that building I was living in to burn off steam. And it really helped me get through that and helped me come back from what I've been through with my brother. And in that gym, I met some personal trainers. And I'd never heard anything like that before. I mean, they were working, getting people in shape. They were wearing gym clothes.
Right.
And they were making $75 an hour doing it.
Right.
And to me, that was a lot of money at the time. I was like, sign me up. So I quit my job, used what little savings I had, got my personal training certification, started interviewing at places in Miami Beach to get hired, and I got hired at the first place that I interviewed at the Eden Rock Resort and Spa right here on 41st Street in Miami Beach in Collins, and right on the ocean, and the gym was overlooking.
No, right where it is, man.
What's that?
I know right where it is. I've been there many times.
Yeah, it's a cool place, right? Now the hot place is the Fontainebleau, but during that time,
that was the spot at that time. I get it. Yep.
So yeah, that's where they didn't even want to let me train people when I first started, but I was so passionate about doing, helping people with their health and fitness. I would just grab people off the floor and I started training them, even though I was there to wipe up machines and put away weights. So after 2 months, they wanted to wait 2 years.
Right.
But after 2 months, they were like, you know what? We're going to make you a personal trainer, and you'll be able to train clients. And so I was making $30 an hour training people, and I went on to train Ricky Martin.
All right. So real quick, let me jump in, Ted. At that, before we get into who you were training,
Giselle.
2 months in, Were you technically qualified to be training people?
Great question. Great question. And in personal training, it's the wild, wild west. So in one way, I had a lot of experience, and I did a good job. So in the context of who was doing it at that time, I'd say, yeah, I was qualified enough. I'd never heard anybody, except for one person. Right? He was a big dude, really big, like 240, 250 pounds, very tall, very thick guy, but he was overweight and not exercising. And I had him do the assisted pull-ups because you got to do your pull-ups, right? And okay, big guy, so we'll put him on the assisted pull-up. He trained with me that day, and he did a double training session. So for me, that was like, oh man, 2 people at the same time. And and his friend was a lot smaller. So I had him on the assisted pull-up. That guy disappeared. Then he came back, like, I don't know, a couple months later, he's like, man, I had the worst tendonitis in my biceps. You know, he was just sore in his biceps afterwards. So that's the extent of it. But great question, and it's highly unregulated.
Well, that's why I asked, because we talked about this before, and how crazy it is that there's no real regulation or system, or like you don't know what you're getting if you go get a trainer at 24 Hour Fitness or whatever. So it's just it blows my mind that there's still nothing out there. But that's why I brought that up, because obviously it's important for people to find the right people and know that they can trust them and work with them, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to answer that question in a way looking back, but what I could say is if you want to find someone qualified, look at the people they've worked with. Make sure all my clients, if they're always willing to talk to a potential client.
Right.
They're like, hey, if you ever need me to talk to someone, and I've got CEOs of these companies, so it means a lot.
Right.
And I would look at also, does that person, here's the thing that I think I had going for me over other people, is I was passionate about it. Exactly. I was passionate about learning about it. Right. In fact, I spent so much money going to continuing education seminars, doing certifications, that I went into quite a bit of debt at the time doing that. So, those are 2 ways, because I heard your interview with Charles. I'm a big fan of Charles. Been reading his work for a long time. Learned a lot from him, and what he said was great. But I would say, look for someone passionate. Look for someone who invests education in their education, and look for someone who has some testimonials, some people that you can actually talk to, and that's a good place to start. And also, the last tip I would give is become an educated consumer, because we're at a place where in healthcare, you can't just go to a doctor and expect to get excellent care. No. You have to be an educated consumer. I think it's the same in fitness. You mentioned, Scott, that there's a lack of federal oversight. Man, to me, it's all the wild, wild west. I've been to doctors who I was like, I cannot believe that after 8 years of medical school, 4 years of medical school, 2 years of residency, and whatever, that this is the level of care that you're getting. So you got to be an educated consumer.
I'll just jump in, Scott, real quick. Like, Ted's right, and I think the biggest problem that most people have is if you go to the commercial, 24 hours or the LA Fitnesses or all of these places, they don't allow private trainers in there, right? Like the people that are working there are working for the actual corporation / that franchise or that location, and you're not going to draw the best personal trainers. Unfortunately, no disrespect, right? Not to any of those guys that work at those places. Most of them are just young kids. They just got their license. Some of them just get the mail-in bullshit, personal training certifications that they don't even have any like actual clinical experience working with people individually or whatever. And so that's the type of person. I mean, Monica and I go every night. We train at LA Fitness because of the child care situation. We also have a membership at 24 Hour for the same reason. And we look at the trainers that are working in these gyms, and my God, if I went and I videotaped them and I made a spoof, I probably could have 10 million views on YouTube because it's abhorrent. I mean, what you see, it's dangerous. I mean, literally, they're doing ballistic, absurd things that I wouldn't do with a client if I was training them in a million years. And but it's sad because, going back to what you just said, Ted, there's no oversight, there's no governing body. It's the wild, wild west. And so, Monica and I would soar, and, I was telling you that, Ted, when we were talking a couple weeks back. I really think that there is an opportunity and maybe, you and I can get involved and we can spearhead the whole thing, who knows, but there really is an opportunity for some sort of regulation, some sort of accredited, agency that goes around and teaches clinical strength and teaches endurance training and teaches all these things and ties it in with obviously the right type of eating and controlled insulin lifestyle and all that stuff. But it boggles the mind that you see this and there is just everywhere you go it's the same problem. It really is.
Can you tell he's a little passionate about that?
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, I gotta.
Yeah, please.
I want to get back to Ted though. So,
Sure.
So you're about to talk about you were getting into when you started training people, you worked up to where you said you mentioned that you're training Ricky Williams. So how did your profession kind of
Ricky Williams, the star center for the Los Angeles Ravens. Ricky Williams.
Got it. Cool. So how did it progress from there? Like as you started to work with people like celebrities, or tell me how kind of your career kind of progressed to where you're at now.
Oh yeah. If I could, I wanted to follow up on one point with Jay. And I really agree with where you're coming from, man. And I'll be honest, I kind of like the looseness. I don't know what it would be like to be regulated, so that could be better. I'm not thoroughly convinced that's the answer. But to your point about trainers, I work in very affluent buildings, multi-million-dollar complexes. And one place I went to, there was a trainer who charges at least as much as I do.
Right.
Okay? Quite possibly much more.
Right.
Never. And he had a 50-year-old overweight woman just, looking to get in shape, looking to start conditioning herself, looking to get in shape. He had her doing box jumps for reps. She said she broke her ankle. I didn't understand.
Oh,
my God.
Of course, right? She, there's a bunch of bones in the ankle. She didn't really say which one, and I was like, hey, you know what? I totally understand. Why don't you train with me? I'll get you past that, and we'll work around your injury. Get serious. I like it.
What's up, Dr. O?
What's up, Brett? Sorry,
hey guys.
How are you, man? Say hi to Ted. Ted, me.
How you doing, Ted?
Oh, what's up, Brett? Really great to meet you, man.
Likewise. Now, where are you located?
I'm in Miami Beach, Florida.
Right. Well, I'm about 40 miles north of you.
Yeah, you guys have to get on. I was telling Brett, you got to go on a show to watch the new practice for sure and talk about it.
Yeah.
That would be great. Where exactly are you, Ted?
I am, in South Beach.
Okay.
Kind of in the heart of South Beach. And,
Awesome.
Ted's a superstar trainer.
It's a fun place.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So
driving around during the day with all the hungover tourists and and the people in the nightclub who are like,
Yeah. Last time I was down there was my 44th birthday. We went to see Paul Van Dyke at Mansion. I know you guys have seen him.
Nice.
So I was probably one of those guys that you were driving around in the streets of Florida.
I really felt that.
So anyway, now we can go to Doc's new.
Right.
Yeah, right. Perfect launch right there, Doc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those hangover cures, the IVs and things like that. Yep. Just like them big. Absolutely. But anyway,
tell us about your practice.
I was going to say along those lines, the practice is now opening. It's sort of been a soft launch. The office itself, the physical plan of the office is very, very close to being done. You know, we're launching the website. It's sort of, again, it's one of these soft launches. There's still some editing that needs to be done, but it's up, and we're trying to get the message out there with you know, the various social media platforms, et cetera, and push a lot of digital content out there. So, you know, we expect some big things in the next 6 to 12 months. So, if you're on Facebook, et cetera, and all these social media platforms, I know everybody is on. You know, you'll be seeing a lot of stuff coming down the pike. Interesting.
Honestly, the video today is amazing. I mean, Ryan did a great job with that video. It looks awesome.
Yeah, he did. Interestingly, Ryan is he's a real sort of one of these occult sort of cryptic talents. Sort of jack of all trades, knows how to. He's very, very skilled with SEO, and you know, he's had a lot of a very, very large and very, very wide programming background, both from the standpoint of web-based type of technologies, and you know, started fiddling around with computers when he was a little kid, as probably we all did. And by virtue of that, he's picked up a lot of different skills. So his skill set is very, very wide. And you know, that video that you saw out there, which he very, very craftily put together, took him about 3 hours. I mean, so he just takes, and there's no video.
Yeah, I was about to say, right? It was just all shot. Yeah, it was all tied together and stitched.
Yeah. You know, it's the Final Cut and all the rest of the After Effects and all the rest of the stuff. There's no video there. It's just all. I don't know if you saw it, Ted, but it's really neat.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Forward to it. Yeah. I've read a few of your articles that were on Danger and Play. I thought it was excellent to hear that you're doing the anti-aging thing. Yeah, really psyched to get you on my show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. I would love that opportunity. That would be terrific.
Dr. O, Ted was explaining to us how he got into training and some of the challenges that he's had in his life, and now how he's actually, you know, celebrity trainer and.
Yeah, that's great.
Trainer.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, the rest of the show, then, you know, that you guys are both here is, and I'm going to push it down Ted's path, and of course, Brett, you comment, but we're just going to talk about, you know, fitness over 40. I mean, really, you know, people. He's got a lot of clients. He's got a lot of successful CEOs that he trains in their 40s and 50s and 60s and stuff. So we're going to try to keep it in that thread. So with that said, Ted, you know, just continue on. Like,
Back to you, Ted.
Scott was saying, you know, how did you start working with celebrities? Like, how did you?
You know, it was a really methodical, strategic plan that I did. So I'll tell you. You're kidding, right?
Analytical, Ted.
Miami Beach, there's celebrity. Everybody, you got to be a millionaire to live in. Like the places here, right?
Every street corner, right?
So first of all, just geographic location, and I think it's important because if you're someone in maybe, I don't know, South Carolina somewhere, sorry, a city is escaping, the name of the city is escaping me, but you're not going to get those types of people. But if you're in Miami Beach, if you're in LA, if you're in New York City, you're going to be around affluent people, you're going to be around celebrities. And the way, you know, I make fun of it because I'm a technical guy, I'm really passionate, and I use the celebrity thing because it's true. But, you know, I've trained Richard Branson. I trained his wife. His niece is the one who introduced us. And that's just, I trained Robert Downey Jr., I trained Ricky Martin. That just has to do with being a cool person. And not to give myself too much credit, but being respectful of people without being like, oh my God, you know, or selling their information to TMZ, right?
Well, honestly, that speaks volumes about who you are and about your character as well. I think about it. You not only attract one or two celebrities, you attract multiple celebrities. That speaks volume as to the type of person you are and the type of character that you have. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And there's some people, I don't care how much money they have or who they are, I wouldn't work with them.
Right.
And because they're not serious about it, and they're kind of, I turned one guy down, very wealthy guy. He's no celebrity, but he's a very, very wealthy guy. And, you know, all he wanted to do is go snort cocaine and drink all night and party. And it's like, okay, well, this is a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time, really.
Right.
So I'm not going to be on call like to train you unless you're going to pay me a lot of money. You don't want to do that. So you really have to, it's about finding the people who you connect with. And all my clients, they value health, they value their family. Of course, they value wealth too, making money, but they're not like the people who are, the people who I guess a lot of people complain about, like the 1% that are really screwing everybody over. These people are offering a lot of value, right? And they're good people, and yeah, I can't say enough about the client, enough good things about the clients that I have right now. And I think that like attracts like.
Yeah.
So,
well, Ted, tell me about, like, when you start working with a new client that's, over 40, what's your evaluation process like on where you want to start them in their training?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, I slap them on the treadmill, they start walking, and we start talking about their goals. We start talking about what they have tried in the past that either has or hasn't worked. We talk about what they like to do. We also, very importantly here, talk about their medical history. I want to know if they're taking any medication that may affect their ability to work out, like statins. Some people get really tight. Blood pressure medication, things like that. And also injuries. I want to know what injuries they've had. And I take all that information, and then I slowly start to apply stress to their body, because that's what exercise is, right? And I love body weight exercises. I love what are called mobility exercises, which is just maybe parts of exercises broken down, like for example, a squat or a deadlift. I would, instead of doing something like that right away, I would put them face down. I'd show them. I'd ask to see their hip extension. So I just take them through a process of moving their body, and I look for restrictions. I look for pain. I look for things that they do that either makes them feel comfortable or uncomfortable, and I take it from there. But as far as the actual workouts, I love all the compound movements. I love barbell. I love all the tools, barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells. But I really love starting people out, mastering their body weight. And I'm especially just so passionate about gymnastics style workouts right now, gymnastics style exercises. And when I say that, people may think of like planches and iron crosses, which that's not what I'm talking about. I'm like regression, way down from that. But it's something I've started to get into. And so that's just a brief overview, but it's really tailored to the person, their goals and their limitations.
That's very cool. And do you go to their location, or do you have a gym that they go to?
I travel to their location.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
That's one of the selling points of what I do here, and I'm getting away from that, and I'm going to be very. I don't even take clients in the afternoon anymore. I feel like I need to get out there and share my message more, and to help people, empower them, not just with fitness, but with what I call success psychology, because stuff sounds so wimpy,
So if you're working with a client, whether it's, do you feel like are you balanced between men and women, or is it more dudes than women, or how is the balance of like the amount of people that you work with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I market myself to men.
Right.
But I usually end up training those guys. I train their wives, their girlfriends, and that's how I usually get the women. I enjoy training women. I think I'm decent at it, but I really love training men.
So how many of your guys that come to you in your 40s and 50s do you like immediately start talking to them about whether or not I guess my question is, do you have them go down a path like to make sure, because I know you're obviously very concise, but do you go down a path of like, say, I want to get your blood looked at too, so you can consider possibly optimizing your hormones, or is that even a conversation that you ever really take?
Absolutely. If I try to talk them into it, but I find that people in person, I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be on the internet either.
We got one right here.
That's good that you don't pretend.
Brett, you see the angle I'm taking here, Brett? You see how
I get it.
It looks like there's a good partnership coming right here.
Right.
I talked to him about it. And I'll be honest, I don't have a good person down here. I mean, there are a lot of.
You do now.
You know.
Not far.
Oh, and he's only 30 minutes away.
Not far.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think Miami Beach is a place where there's a lot of shady people.
Definitely, man.
Even if they got an MD after their name, there's some shady people. I'm sure Dr. Osborne, Brett, you have probably heard of some people.
Yeah, just
here,
one or two.
Some doctors, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of people looking to make money off of that, including doctors. So I don't have anybody that I know down here. Brett, I would love to talk to you about doing something like that. I would love to refer someone.
Ted, the one thing about Brett is that he is like one of the best doctors in the entire country. I mean, he's already living embodiment of working in optimizing hormones, but he will never, ever do anything that's not within the context of health and longevity. I mean, like, there are, as you said, there are plenty of doctors that are out there that will literally script anything to people.
Your testosterone is low. Here, let me sell you a
exactly, dude.
$30 thing that I'm going to sell you $150. It's just, yeah, people aren't. I find that a lot of the doctors. I mean, I'm no doctor again, and I don't tend to understand endocrinology to any high level at all. But when a doctor uses the wrong name of a hormone,
right,
it's like, dude, man, come on.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, you and Brett can talk after the show, and you guys can have each other. You can have him on your show. But I think Brett will be a great connection for you because some of these high-level people now, you can just you guys. Hey, I got a great doctor.
Right.
Because Brett's not gonna. I mean, honestly, Brett's not gonna fuck around. I mean, he's very, very, very concise, and he's about like his book. It's all about the context of health and longevity. And honestly, like, he's really been a big influence to me too, because whenever I talk to somebody and I consult with, like you, a lot of different people, I always tell them, I'm like, look, man, if you want to start talking to me about using this, and this, and you want to get this or that, or you want to work with a doctor, then you're talking to the wrong guy.
Right.
Conversation's over. I mean, this is about health. This is about getting your blood work done. This is about finding out, what you need based on what your blood tells you need, and that's it. There's not exogenous, synthetic nonsense, that people want because they read something on the internet, that says that they should take it. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, I think that's a really good thing. You definitely have a great doctor that you can refer now to.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Ted, let me just interject for 1 second. You probably have some people, if you're working with individuals that are, that are going through andropause, menopause, whatever you want to call it, hormonal decline associated with age or the aging process. And you probably have noticed that, there are some, most individuals, in addition to training with you in the context of health, they're also training to some degree to look better. We all want to, as young as possible, obviously, and keep as much muscularity on our body and stay as lean as possible. And those are heavily tied into, the optimization of hormone levels. So by virtue of that, if you do have patients that, by virtue of their age, their chronological age, forget about biological age, their chronological age, have responded sort of suboptimally to training, despite modifications to their diet, their sleep, their stress levels, et cetera, et cetera. You think you've got everything optimized. Those are the individuals that potentially would be candidates to come up and see me to have a look, because you may be dealing with people just by virtue of their age that, despite the fact that you're doing everything right, and I'm sure you are very, very skilled in what you do, just like Jay and Monica are with what they do, the results, the physical, the mental results, et cetera, may not be where they would like them to be, or where you would like to see them. And that is one of the major missing pieces, or hormone levels are one of the major missing pieces. Just by putting these patients on just small doses of replacement, and as Jay said, I'm not looking to turn people into bodybuilders, because, as you know, bodybuilders are some of the most unhealthy, narcissistic people walking this earth. Okay, they have toxic habits. And it's no, they do. And it's no different than abuse of any other It's good. An abuse of any other drug.
Dude,
So we're not. And the thing about it is that when they stop, okay, and they will stop. We're not talking about hormone replacement therapy ultimately to be stopped. There's no goal,
right?
No contest that's coming up in 6 months where they have to flood their bodies with every synthetic known to man in order to come in, shredded, et cetera, and potentially win. We are talking about a plan for life. We're talking about a way to minimize side effects. Just get your hormone profile sort of similar. It doesn't have to be the same, but similar to what it was when you were 16 or 18 or 20 or whatever it was. That's what we're talking about. And we're not talking about something that's going to be used on a transient basis. We're talking about something that's going to be used permanently. One of the side effects of optimal hormones, as you're well aware of, is the fact that you will physically feel better. In addition to being biochemically optimized, you're physically going to be a better looking individual in all likelihood, from the standpoint of your muscularity and your lean body, your percent body fat, if your hormones are optimized relative to those who don't have an optimal hormone profile. And just by virtue of aging, okay, the hormones are going to decline. And that's despite everything that you may do, which may be perfect. So these are patients that you really have to start consider. I'm really not interested. Okay, just so you know, I'm not interested in the 30-year-old, okay, who's in childbearing age, who wants to become a bigger human. I don't want those patients in my clinic, okay, and I won't see them because for a variety of reasons. I'll see them, but they will not be offered hormone replacement therapy. At most, they'll get if they do have low testosterone levels, et cetera, and everything else has been ruled out. They'll probably end up going home on some beta HCGs just to bump them up a little bit, okay, so that it will stimulate their natural production of testosterone. But in all likelihood, if they're of childbearing age, they're not going to be getting it from me. I don't work that way. This is not a hormone clinic. This is not a bodybuilding clinic. Okay, this is all done in the context of health. Okay, and that's what has to be. You have to remember that. This is about health. This is not about bodybuilding. Period. Whether or not you look good, I mean, that's always a side effect of what you do. It's not the primary goal.
Hey Ted, you normally work with just like normal people. You don't work with quote unquote bodybuilders, right? Or do you? Yeah, I was gonna say.
I wouldn't know what to do with. I'm like, hey man, do you want to do deadlifts and bench press? The biceps and the triceps? No. All right. You want to try some ring dips and on some L-sits and some gymnastic stuff? No. I don't know what to do with you, bro.
Right.
But no, what you said was really important, Brett, and thank you for bringing that up. What I'm personally looking for, I'm super interested in the hormone thing. I know it's the way to, even if it doesn't extend your life, it's the way to maintain the quality of life. But man, I want to get back to when I used to be able to drink all night and I got those spontaneous erections that were really embarrassing at the wrong times. Can you get me back to that, man?
Believe it or not, that's one of the first things that I ask the guys when they come to my office. Having been placed on hormone replacement therapy, I ask them about that. It's usually the first thing I ask them because that's a sure sign that their testosterone is high, or where it should be, basically. Because you are feeling like you're 16 again, and actually that and the morning erections and the sleep is usually the first thing that people will say. Oh my God, I haven't slept this well in years. Well, it's true. As we get older, for a variety of reasons, I don't know if it's stress, I don't know if it's whatever it is. If it's a hormonal issue, it's probably a multifactorial thing. But our sleep quality tends to decline. Our sleep hygiene tends to decline. And when your sleep hygiene declines, and you assume all these stresses, and one obviously plays off of the other, that's when disease sets in. Okay, so it's testosterone not only fixes the hormone levels, so to speak, and fixes your muscularity and fixes your leanness. Okay, it works on the brain, it works on your stress levels. It has tons and tons of these, salubrious health-promoting effects. One of which is better sleep, and when you sleep better, the incidence of obesity goes down, the incidence of Alzheimer's disease goes down. Everything, you recover better from your workouts. Everything, okay, and sleep is undervalued, okay. But one of the primary sort of benchmarks that I use is how well these individuals are sleeping. Because if you sleep well, tons of other things, it's like the domino effect, tons of other things will fall into place just by virtue of you sleeping better. Okay, so it's very, very important.
Hey Ted, you were gonna touch on something.
Yeah,
to do
let's
with
talk
sleep.
about sleep. So let's segue to that.
Into sleep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Exactly. I mean, that was the missing thing for me. I had a pretty good diet. I trained like a beast. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions, and I was lifting weights, doing strength training with the typical powerlifting moves and a little bit of Olympic lifting.
Right.
But I just did not really respect the power of sleep. And now it's kind of common. Everybody talks about it, how there's research that shows that even college-age healthy individuals, healthy males, there's one study in particular, 5 nights of bad sleep. I don't have the study with me right now, but it was a few nights of sleep deprivation, and their testosterone levels turned into the levels of like a 13-year-old girl. I've also interviewed another doctor, Dr. Kirk Parsley. He's a former Navy SEAL, and now he does hormone, kind of the stuff that you do, Brett. He does it out in, I think San Diego maybe, and he worked with SEALs at this sports medicine center, and these guys were totally crushing themselves. And these guys are already the fraction of a percent of the population who can handle the levels of stress that they're under with the combat and all the things that they do. The sleep deprivation is just part of the job. And these guys had crushed testosterone levels, and it was due to sleep. And so that's something that really turned me around. And I was 30 years old, or maybe in my early 30s, and I lost my sex drive for a while. I didn't understand why it was gone. My joints were aching like crazy. And come to find out, like, I didn't pay attention to it, but I just wasn't sleeping well. I wake up a bunch of times at night, and it took me a long time to put the pieces together, because if you go to a doctor like I did, most doctors, and Brett, I know you're a doctor, but I know you're a neurosurgeon, but I'm sure you can vouch for me on this. Like, they'll tell you, well, you seem to be fine, because nobody's going to test your hormone levels. Nobody is going to look at your testosterone, your free testosterone, your total testosterone, all the other hormones, your estrogens, your 3 estrogens, and make sure everything's in balance, and then say, hey, listen, something's off here. How are you sleeping? How are you exercising? How's your nutrition? They don't do that. They just say, well, your blood chemistry looks fine to me, and you're like a failing student. So when I started sleeping better, I mean, there's a ton of resources. There's a ton of great TED Talks on it. But we know it can lower your testosterone, like Brett mentioned. We know that Tara Swart, an MIT neuroscientist, talks about how a night of slightly disturbed sleep can lead to a loss of 6 to 8 IQ points. A night of really bad sleep can lead to a loss of a whole standard deviation of IQ, which is why you feel like a complete idiot after a night of an all-nighter, right? And there's also research recently showing that when we sleep, our cerebrospinal fluid bathes the connections of our brain and to wash away this substance called amyloid beta. And if amyloid beta starts to accumulate in your body, it puts you at more. It's correlated with Alzheimer's disease, dementia, falling apart, and it's something that people don't respect. People don't get that before Thomas Edison invented electricity and the light bulb, and now it's we've created this second daytime, because when the lights go down, right, when the sun goes down, it's time to turn on the lights, like we all have our lights on right now, right? And that's really out of sync with how we were for a very long period of time. And we're diurnal creatures. We cannot live at night, I mean, it's just without serious repercussions. And there's a ton of research on shift work showing how detrimental it is. So I didn't get that. And then I started looking into it, delving into it. Unfortunately, I had to muck around in trial and error, because it's not something that doctors and a lot of health professionals even will talk about in depth. They'll just say, oh yeah, sleep's important. Okay, well, what do I need to do to make sure that I have a great night's sleep? Mm-hmm. Another thing that really changed me was someone was, again, Dr. Kirk Parsley was talking about the biochemical pathway to produce serotonin in your brain is messed up if you don't have vitamin D. And, if you don't have serotonin, the melatonin, I mean, I don't pretend to understand the biochemical pathways and the nuances of all the chemistry involved. Brett, I'm sure you have a much better understanding. But if you don't have the vitamin D to help the 5-HTP turn into serotonin, then you're kind of screwed. So there's your depression, because serotonin is involved in our mood regulation, among other things. And then, serotonin is a step away from melatonin, or a couple of steps. I mean, we're just messing ourselves up by living this modern life. And I love modern life. I love the fact that we're all on together talking about this stuff, but at the same time, we need to be aware, particularly with regards to sleep, how it's affecting our health. And we don't die like cavemen used to, where you get a bacterial infection and it spreads throughout your body and you're dead within however long it takes to spread throughout your body. We got antibiotics, you take them and they're good. But we're kind of, modern medicine is really failing in looking at what we used to be, what we are now, or how our lifestyles are now, and really bridging that gap to promote optimal health. And so sleep was the missing part for me.
Dude, that was awesome. Brett, what can you add to that?
No, I mean, I can tell you that I think that was a great answer, Ted. It was well spoken and well thought out. From our standpoint, I can tell you that what you had said about your SEAL colleague, his observations and probably the things that he's gone through, and some of the things that I've gone through. Sort of neurosurgeons are the SEALs of medicine. That's what I always tell our buddy Ray. We are, and I don't think he really had a concept of that until I started posting things at 2 o'clock in the morning saying my day's just starting. I'm going to the operating room right now. And Jay knows. I've texted Jay. At all hours. I'm going to the hospital, operate on somebody. And I will tell you that while you do become to some degree adapted to it, and yes, I can get up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm on call today and go and operate on somebody, and I'm fine. But you're really not fine. You're not as sharp. You're trained to be sharp, but just by what you had said, there are deleterious effects on the brain, on the body, with sleep deprivation. We've all experienced it with the all-nighters and stuff like that, except that, when you go through a residency or you go through BUD/S or something like that, and neurosurgery is 7 years, you're tortured for 7 years. And you're working. I was training before the work hour restriction, so now it's 80 hours a week. We were there 120, 130. Okay, so you get home at 12 o'clock at night, and you'd be rounding at 5 a.m. Not good. And you do. I will tell you. No, it's not good. And you do. While your neurosurgery residency is 7 years, you probably put on 20 years.
Right.
Just because of the sleep deprivation, let alone the stress. It's the stress and the sleep deprivation, which unto itself is a significant stress, as you know, and it does very, very bad things to the body. And a lot of the neurosurgery residents who come out of training, who came out of training with me, not so much now because again, it's only 80 hours. Somebody realized, well, it was in the wake of a death that occurred. They believe the Libby Zion case. They believe that it was because there was sleep deprivation, okay, and somebody made a bad decision, blah blah blah, and an individual unfortunately had died, and that was sort of the impetus for them changing the laws. So that was something that had occurred in New York. Anyway, what I'm getting at is there were a lot of neurosurgery residents who went through training with me before the sort of the advent or the introduction of these work hour restrictions, and I will tell you that people's health suffered. It really did, and it was I would say sort of the paradigm for accelerated aging was going through a neurosurgery residency, and you saw your friend sees the exact same thing in the context of the guys who were in the SEALs. And Jay, I can't mention any names, but Jay and Monica were gracious enough to bring over a young individual who's Jay, I believe, what is he, in his 30s, who was in the Rangers, 20s, we can't say his name, remember.
No, I think he's like only 26.
Yeah, whose testosterone level, I will tell you, Ted, it was one of the lowest I've ever seen.
Right.
Extremely low. It may have been in the double digits, his total testosterone. Yeah. Extremely low. So, he's the perfect candidate for this. And quite frankly, it actually surprises me that the military isn't using these, bioidenticals, not synthetics, just to make sure that people are functioning well and they can deal with the stresses and they're recovering, but they're just not. And that's sort of it's a shame, and I think it's a mistake. I mean, we want our soldiers, our guys who are standing in harm's way, to be, functioning as optimally as possible. But I can tell you right now, what your friend says is exactly right, and probably all these guys are running around with total testosterone levels that are in literally the crapper. Okay, right. The stresses that they're assuming. So sleep is extremely important, extremely important for a variety of reasons. And as you had said about what's called the lymphatic flow of the brain, where the toxins are washed out. That, in addition to promoting a better hormonal profile, because the deprivation itself is associated with reduced testosterone levels, growth hormone levels, et cetera, et cetera. Growth hormone is made while we sleep. You just can't function without sleep. You're not going to be functioning optimally, and disease will set in. You'll get sick acutely, and ultimately age-related disease will set in at an earlier age. In the context of chronic sleep deprivation. Excuse me just for 1 second, guys.
Sure.
Hey, Ted, you
that was powerful.
Yeah, no, I have a question for you, because you said you work with a lot of CEOs and a lot of people that are time crunched. Have they ever given you any tips about people that? Hi, McKenna.
Hey, McKenna. Hi, Monica and Jay and Ted, Scott.
I was curious if you've heard, Ted, of like what's your recommendation as far as like sleep deprivation? Like, have they expressed anything to you that works for them when there's sleep? Like they're having time crunches, or do you have recommendations for people out there that perhaps struggle with that?
I do. To be honest, the people that I work with now, they've gotten to the point where I can't think of a single client that I have who neglects their sleep. And I've got a guy who runs he's a CEO of a $500 million company. He's like, man, I sleep great. When I hit the pillow, I'm out. I sleep until I wake up. I get mad if anybody wakes me up, and he prioritizes it. Right. And what's interesting, and something that I've said to people before, because I'm kind of trying to end that whole classism BS where people kind of call out people just for making more money.
Right.
And tell people it's like, you call out a lot of these people and say, oh, well, you just care about money. And I say maybe that's true for some people, right? But the people that I work with, they value their health more than the average person.
Right.
They all make sure they sleep well. Maybe they weren't always like that, but now they do, and they value their health more than the average person. The average person doesn't have time to exercise. 20% of Americans are not meeting a very minimal amount of exercise that the government deems necessary.
Yeah, right.
It's like gardening. That's like, oh, walk for 20 minutes is the activity levels. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, I mean, look at our schools. Our schools don't even have PE programs like they did at one time.
Right, they're gone, dude.
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, and to your sleep point, I have three. I have a sort of three step process, and the first one is just equip your sleep cave, right? Make sure that your room is dark, cold, like pitch black cold, and this is probably stuff that you guys have all heard before, and quite possibly your listeners, but cold, dark. Take all the electronic lights out. Some people like to take the EMF, the magnetic radiation from your cell phones and from the Wi-Fi. I don't personally go to that limit, but I try to get all the lights out because we know that light messes with melatonin production. So also a good bed, I've found can make a difference, right?
Ted, what do you suggest I do about my girlfriend's cat that likes to jump on us in the middle of the night?
Kill it.
Jesus, Monica, the fact that you said it, I think we can get away with that, but
I think you already set a bad precedent, my man.
Well, you know what? It's funny. You guys just said that. Like we have both of our dogs. Like we have an amazing pit bull, as Brett knows, he's a year old, and he's starting to bother me now because he's like waking up too early. And it's like, what the hell? I already wake up to go to the bathroom, and I love my dog, but it's like I told Monica this morning, I'm like, we got to figure something out because I'm not going to be waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to take my goddamn dog outside.
It's 6:30 in the morning.
Well, yeah, but he's been waking up earlier.
He just has dreams.
Dude, this morning he woke up at like 5 a.m. and he was moving around, and it's like, whoa. You
hear the chain rattling and
it's like having a newborn in our room.
Yeah. And that's another thing, because I sleep like a Vietnam vet, right? Like I'm, one small sound.
That's how I am too, man.
I don't attack people. I'm just saying I don't attack you, right, Giselle? She says no. Thanks for playing along. So have some white noise or sleep with earplugs in is another thing.
Yeah.
If you're sensitive to noise like I am, and I live in a place.
I think one of the things that we all need to do, and we all are so busy in our lives, and you've already hit on it eloquently many times already, but we really should not have our cell phones in our goddamn rooms when we go to sleep at night. Okay, I know we want them next to us, and I know we're getting texted, and people want to reach us, and we're on call. Well, Brett's different because he has to have it because he's on call. He's got to go save somebody's life. But the rest of us, whatever. These people can wait till the next morning.
Yeah.
And I really think Monica and I watched a seminar recently, and one of the guys that was speaking was very very prescient. He said, look. At night, you should not have your cell phones or your iPods or your iPhones or anything that you have that needs to charge should be in another room, not in your sleep room, like you call it, the sleep cave. It should not be there. It should not be the first thing that you check when you wake up in the morning either. How many people do that? They wake up and they look at their phone and they're like, boom, they're set in motion of negativity.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jay.
Give us another tidbit, Ted. What else? You said you had another. Is there another one?
Yeah, in 3 parts. So that was this equip your sleep cave. I think that's enough. Get blackout blinds, invest in them. Really get all the light out of it, out of your room, and make sure it's cold. It's worth the extra bit of money that you pay on the electric bill. And then develop a sleep ritual. And what I do is I start, as the sun goes down like it is now, obviously this is an exception, but I start dimming the lights as the lights get done. I try to make it as natural a process as possible. Right. And I'm not so crazy where I won't watch TV or anything like that, because, again, the light stimulate, kind of blocks melatonin production. But I start dimming things. If I'm really riled up, I'll do some deep breathing exercises. I'll do some stretching exercises, really to calm myself down. Then I get in bed and then I read for 30 minutes, and so I'm like having a hard time closing my eyes. And then I go to bed. And then the third part is develop a morning ritual, and I really believe it starts there. And waking up at the same time. Getting some natural light right away, making sure that you get some vitamin D from the sun, although we're all, crazy because all the, all the talk about sun cancer. But if you're pale, you could probably stand 10 minutes of sun.
Yes, man.
Right? And also exercise. You got to exercise. I mean, when people say they have a hard time going to bed because they're not tired,
right?
It's like, do you exercise?
Right.
No. Why would you be tired?
Right.
Maybe you're mentally fatigued from all the intellectual work you've done all day, but you got to physically fatigue your body. And I believe there's maybe Brett can chime in on this, but you build up, I think adenosine is, part of the ATP. You build up adenosine, you need to burn it off in some way. That's what I was listening to. Forgive me for not getting that exactly correct. If you go and look it up, it's slightly different than what I said. But you need to exercise, and I believe like getting some exercise, whether it's like what I do, doing some body weight gymnastics training in the morning, or going for a walk, get some exercise in, and cut back on the caffeine. What I started doing instead of, because I used to be a caffeine junkie, I'd go to one client, all right, come on, let's go, keep up the energy high, because I believe that's what my clients deserve with what they pay me. But I started using some nootropics instead of caffeine, right? I take some alpha GPC and some aniracetam, and instead of caffeine, that gets me going. I also I have a couple little things that I set aside. I eat some dark chocolate. It's got theobromine in it instead of caffeine. My body just seems to process it better, so it doesn't affect my sleep. But if you're pounding Monster energy drinks and 8 espressos a day, then you might be laying there because caffeine has a long what's called half-life. It just stays in your body for a really long time, and it can affect your sleep cycle. So those are just some basic things. And even if you're listening right now and you implement just 50% of that, you're going to notice a big difference in your sleep quality. Because it's not just about the time, it's about what's called the sleep architecture, and what actually happens with your sleep, what happens in your body and brain while you're asleep, and you need good quality sleep. So those are the three some basic things.
It's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's awesome, Brett. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that those are all great points. Just a couple of things that I want to mention. Melatonin is an excellent supplement. People are sort of nervous about it. They think they're going to be in a coma if they take too much of it, and it's going to kill them, and they're going to stop breathing. That's just wholly untrue. I will routinely take 20 to 30 milligrams of melatonin a night. That's 20 to 30, 20 to 30. Okay, not 1, not 3, not 2. Okay, you don't have to be afraid of it. Okay, you can take a lot of melatonin. How do you know how much to take? You sort of titrate upward. You see what is working for you, but it's not a supplement that you need to be nervous about. Interestingly, they did a very, very large study on breast cancer rates in females, obviously. Not that males don't get it, but in females, and they found out that blind women have a much decreased incidence of breast cancer, and they speculated it's because of the chemopreventative effects of melatonin, which is higher, obviously, in patients that are not receiving the photic input into their through their eyes, their visual pathways. So that's just an interesting little tidbit. So melatonin is a very, very good supplement, staying away from the caffeine, and it's not just the caffeine 1 hour before bed, it's the caffeine 4 to 5 hours, 4 to 6 hours before bed. And I'm very, very guilty because, and I'm still sweating from the workout that I had. So prior to my workouts, I'll take 400 to 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is a big ergogenic dose of caffeine. The problem is that it really interferes with my sleep pattern. The other thing, so you have to be careful about doing that. It's almost better. Well, I'm not really an advocate of morning training. If you train in the morning, I like to train in the afternoon because your hormonal profile is sort of better suited around, or sort of optimal about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, actually. So I'm not really a fan of the morning training. But it's almost better to do it in the morning, because if you're going to use any type of ergogenics before caffeine, et cetera, they're gone. They're long gone As opposed to me, I take them at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it really messes me up. So I'm not happy about having to do that, but just by sort of my work schedule, it becomes very, very problematic to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and train. So I just don't do that. So if you can limit the amount of caffeine, as Ted had said, that's great, and that's just not 1 hour before sleep. That's hours and hours before sleep. My last thing that I would tell you is don't start with the sleeping pills, because while they do put you to sleep, and they will maintain you down, they do interfere with your REM cycles. And
Right.
you really don't want to interfere. I liken REM cycles, and we don't really know much about sleep, and it's very, very interesting to me, and I try to read as much as I can about it, particularly in the context of what's going on sort of chemically in the brain. We know I sort of liken it as, to a reboot, which you need. Okay, you can't run your computer 24/7, okay, because you'll end up frying the screen or whatever. Okay, although computers nowadays are better suited, but if you look at your body like some sort of machine, it needs some downtime. Okay. And your sleep is your downtime. It's your reboot period. It's your recycling, whatever you want to call it. And your REM sleep is sort of the phase where the brain is actively ridding itself of the amyloid beta protein, as you had discussed. It's really during REM sleep that these things occur. So you really can't go without REM sleep, which is really why I'm not a fan of taking these sleep aids. Even things like Valium and these benzos, Ativan, blah blah blah, which they will put you down and you will sleep well. The question is whether or not you're getting enough REM sleep, and that's
like right?
Well, they will put you down, okay? But that's just because you sleep deeply does not necessarily mean that your REM cycles are normal. And interestingly, there's one drug, and of course the name escapes me because I didn't get any sleep last night. No, I'm kidding. That actually will augment. Will sort of push you into REM. And I forget the name of it, and I think it's one of these ones that one of the side effects is that you can get nightmares, sort of like Chantix. Which also, the drug to stop people from smoking, that's associated with just florid nightmares, and that's actually why a lot of people actually come off of it, because it does mess around with your sleep patterns.
Wow.
And yeah, it does. But there's one drug that actually
serious nightmares to have it on the label, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is true. I mean, this is one of and people actually stop the drug because it gives them nightmares. Chantix. So it's doing something funky, and one of the reasons why I read it as much as I can about sleep, because we don't know anything about it.
Right.
We really don't. Relatively speaking, we know nothing. So it's very, very interesting, and ultimately, probably, what we're going to end up doing is, and I know it sounds weird, but if you've seen the movie Aliens, we're all probably going to end up sleeping in these little pods, which either through binaural beats or for some sort of IVs or blah blah blah, we are bettering or optimizing this reboot phase, which is called sleep. But that's something that I suspect is going to be. We're going to start seeing some of these things in the future. We don't have any of those technologies right now that I know of. Maybe you know of some, guys, but I don't know of any. But I suspect that it's going to be like that. And actually, I've spoken to some of the people at the hospitals about doing some sort of, well, if you, as an example, if you've accumulated a lot of stresses in your life, okay, job-related stresses, financial stresses, blah blah blah, and you sort of needed to be rebooted, okay, I think that there is a need, okay, especially in today's, in the modern day society, with all the issues with diurnal rhythms and the destruction of same stresses that are assumed toxins, et cetera, et cetera. I actually think that in the future, we're going to have you're going to go to some sort of facility, and you're going to go in one of these pods, and they're going to induce sleep. I know Ted's got this big grin, like, holy crap, this is cool. Yeah, you're going to have these pods, okay, and you're going to have, you'll be in there with 50 other people, and they will literally reboot you, with some sort of whatever type of supplement infusions, vitamin infusions, amino acids, and they're going to give you some sort of sedative hypnotic, which doesn't interfere with REM, and you're going to come out of there, okay, in 6 hours. Okay, you'll sleep from 12 to 6, and you're going to have the best sleep you've ever had in your entire life, and you're going to feel great, like it's time to go run a marathon.
Right.
Because all your biochemistry is going to be sort of hacked or whatever you want to call it. This is the future. This is what's going to happen. But right now, I don't think we can do that because we just don't understand enough about sleep. But it's coming.
Well said, dude. There was actually a movie about that too. I mean, that movie Jupiter Rising had, it was obviously futuristic type stuff, but that's what they were intimating too. That you'd go into this chamber or this tank, and you would come out like 3 hours later, and you were completely rejuvenated.
You were even younger.
They cellularly upgraded you. They replaced all kinds of stem cell tissue and all that stuff.
Well, we don't know how to do that right now. It's not because it's not possible. It's because we just don't understand it. We just don't understand it right now. But we will.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
A doctor who's interested in this and promoting it, because we need more doctors like you who are interested in something other than prescribing Ambien and looks like your levels are okay to me, like that approach. So thank you.
Well, listen, Ted, man, I wish we could talk for hours, man. This has been an awesome show. Just real quick, I think you and Brett should definitely connect. Obviously, me and Mike are going to come on your show at some point, but definitely connect with Brett. When we turn this off. Scott, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I was going to say, just Ted, if someone wants to, if someone's in your area watching this, or if they want to learn more about you, where should they go?
Yeah, I'm not taking clients in person, so that's not an option. But you can go to legendarylifepodcast.com, and that's where you'll find all the stuff that I talk about. And I'll be launching a webinar on health and fitness for busy professionals very soon, where I talk all about this and go through workouts and health, sleep, stuff that we talked about tonight, more in depth, and it'll, so that's where you find me. Also, look me up on Facebook. If you watch this and you enjoyed what I had to say, if you want to learn more, hit me up on Facebook. Let me know that you heard me here with Jay, Monica, and Brett, and Scott. And let me know. Hit me up. I love to connect with people. And so there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll share this. This thing, the recording will be done right when you turn this off, and then I'll share it with everybody, and obviously tell people that you're not taking on clients, but to definitely check out your show. So that's awesome. Scott, you can turn us off. I mean, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.